Water and Sanitation Deputy Minister David Mahlobo says his department is working with law enforcement agencies to prosecute the Jagersfontein mine management. The community of Charlesville was left in ruins after a tailings dam wall collapsed on the 11th of September. One person was killed and dozens of houses were destroyed. Mahlobo joins us now for more. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for your time. So we know there are already administrative enforcement measures in place. Why have you decided now to also open a criminal case?
When His Excellency, our President, visited the area supported by the Premier of the province, ourselves were there, the Department of Water and Sanitation. Government took a decision to immediately implement relief measures and the rescue mission, but at the same time, the President instructed us to do an investigation, get to the bottom of the issues that are there. On our side, as the Department of Water and Sanitation, we've been on the ground with the other relevant departments. We've done our assessment and we've came to a conclusion that our water use licenses that were given to this mining operation, there's been the contravention of the law by the owners of the operation, and therefore the National Water Act is very clearly that there is an offence that has been committed in terms of Section 151 of the National Water Act, and the owners now will have to be in a position to deal with those issues of transgression around non-compliance of their tailing dams, non-compliance with our license conditions, including the directives that have been ignored. And on the basis of that information and the pollution that has happened on the water resource, including some of the rivers that are there, we've opened up a case today. But beyond opening up the case, there is a responsibility to put a remedial action plan. I was very pleased to note that rehabilitation is happening there, but we are still worried about the operations because the issues of their tailing dam and the tailing facility where they need to dispose water, we have not given them an authorization to do that. They've made an application, and those issues were not satisfied. They've also produced a remedial action plan, and we are looking at it whether we are satisfied or not. Lastly, if that operation wants to continue, they will have to apply for the relevant water use authorization. We'll look at it. But as we say right now, they were in a position to give us false information when they said the structure of the dam was having that particular integrity can withstand. We are worried now. The rains have started in that particular area, and actually operation is in a floodplain. And you could see that stormwater and wastewater, they are not being separated. And if it continues to rain, there is a highly likelihood that some of these things is going to recur. And we've gotten assurance from them today that they will do whatever it takes to ensure that it doesn't recur. And we'll keep monitoring, working with the other relevant departments nationally and in the province and the municipality.
Deputy Minister, the focus of both of these sanctions, both the criminal charges and the administrative enforcement measures, is the pollution of water resources. You mentioned that you were concerned about pollution. What have your investigations revealed about pollution in surrounding water resources?
Well, the main issue that we notice in terms of, if you look at the slime that is there, you find that the slime that was there, it doesn't contain hazardous material, but it has an impact on the water source, as we have said. Secondly, there is a sewer plant there, which is a wastewater treatment plant that is within the floodline, and it was destroyed. Currently, work is happening to repair that particular plant. But what we have noticed, there is a seepage. In other words, the sewer is running into the next river that is there. And you could see that there is levels of E. coli. Our department and the Department of Environment in the province, working with the University of Free State, they are busy taking samples. And the directive has been issued that wastewater treatment plant must be able to be in compliance. But when we went to site, you could see that the entire system there, even those mine dams, they are not properly maintained. They're like dongas right now. there's a lot of runoff. There can even be a possibility of flooding that can cause problems. But now, because water is underground, they want to pump it out. And when they don't pump that water out, the structures, which are the pillars, because they did underground mining at a particular point, they might collapse and cause problems either to those who are working them, but also it can cause problems to the settlement, but it can still cause problems to the environment. Therefore, the remedial action plan that they've given, we are going to conclude very shortly with our teams and other departments. We'll go to court and ensure that that document, which is a remedial action plan, become a declaratory order, so that if there's any default, we can be able to enforce because it's a court order. Because in our experience in the past, plans will be submitted, but there will be non-compliance with those particular plans. And we need to cover ourselves in terms of being responsible, ensuring that action can be taken even later.
So you're saying the remedial action plan is there, you want to make sure it is enforced, but you've also said that they had submitted false documentation before, stating that structures were stable, that they were compliant. Community members have raised that even before this disaster, they saw this coming and that they tried to alert officials to the possibility of danger. How do you then, as you've said, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? If there's trouble in holding these mining companies firmly to account to make sure that not only do they fix the damage that they've caused, and that they put measures in place to make sure this never happens again?
Well, there's this thing that is called successor in law. There's been a lot of changes of hand in terms of ownership, in terms of those operations from 1874 and until July this year, where other owners, they move out, they left these liabilities. You could see that these current owners of this operation, they never did a proper due diligence. And it's also their responsibility to handle their issues well. For an example, you can't have a reputable international engineering consulting firm that will lie and sign off as professionals a report that structurally the dam is stable, when our own engineers were very clear that this structure is highly likely going to fail. Even the remaining portion, which is the tailing dam number 2, the structure is cracked. It's going to have caused problems. They have a responsibility that on our side we've demanded that they need to get an approved professional person, which is called an APP, that deals with this kind of tailing dams. Normally, there are not many in South Africa. We do have our own, but they need to be able to pay. Our action that we've taken today of holding this mine responsible, but we'll also hold even those that were there before, including the professional entities, because the law must be actually be enforced. But at the very same time, it will be very important that they are, in their own case, they take action. And our action of today, and it does not necessarily mean other people who actually wanted to claim damages and be able to go for civil action in terms of this impact that was caused by this operation. They are then precluded because the Department of Water and Sanitation, there can be a number of litigation that can come in. But in our case, we have all the evidence and scientifically proven in terms of the water samples, the reports of our engineers, and we're very confident that working side by side with the law enforcement agencies, will be able to prosecute them successfully. But even if we prosecute them, the responsibility still remains that that operation remains suspectable. It's an old operation. It can actually, it's actually high risk. They still have that financial obligation that they need to put more money aside, even if one day they will close that operation, because if they don't do that, after the operation has been closed, it can still have an impact on the environment. It can be able to deal with the issues of water resources, but it can also cause displacement of those communities that are already within a flood line.
In this instance, in September, we saw one person lose their life and we saw many people lose their homes. So a slap on the wrist in the form of a fine would definitely not be justice served in criminal proceedings. What are you hoping will be the outcome?
Our view is that we'll try to put our case within the laws of the land. We'll push for both the issues of a fine, but at the very same time, we'll also push for the issues of the directors serving in jail, because that you can do the combination of both. And we have also been discussing it with our teams that probably going forward, we need to be able to classify these incidents as serious crimes in terms of schedule of offenses, because maximally these people can be able to spend only 5 years in prison. And we of our view that the cost to environment, you will not be able to quantify. The cost of loss of lives and the cost of the loss of livelihoods, those are some of the biggest challenges that we do. And our view is that even the other organization, they will be supported by ourselves if they wanted to actually take action around this particular area. But as a department, we are learning. We are strengthening our enforcement and compliance unit, but also those who are dealing with dam safety, because South Africa's economy, the bedrock was on the mining, but there are too many derelict and abandoned mines that are causing a lot of impact on the environment in terms of acid mine drainage. Some of them, they're causing seepages. There are many sinkholes, whether you go to Mpumalanga in Witbank, whether you come here in Gauteng. And that burden must never be borne by our children. And government has a responsibility that we chase and try to find these former owners of this operation. But where their owners are still there, they will have to make financial provision so that if there is a mine closure, we are able to rehabilitate. There are no negative impact that must be left with our own communities.
Well, thank you very much for your time and for those valuable insights. That's Department of Water and Sanitation Deputy Minister David Mahlobo telling us